You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Psychedelic and Cannabis news for today. Pop-ups are getting in my way. June 8th, 2023. And we are here live from paceradio.net, cbgtv.com, and every place that we stream, which is all over the place. Search us, you'll find us, I'm sure. Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Cindy, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and how are you?
Not too bad, to tell you the truth. It's I did see some sun out there, and I could see some sky, so that's good.
Nice. Yes,
and to tell you the truth, it didn't smell smoky outside this morning.
That's a beautiful blessing. Oh, I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand that. I've never understood that until this year here in Nova Scotia. But I completely understand that now. We were covered in smoke, and I have so much empathy for the other provinces that are used to that.
Yes.
That it happens most summers, and because we're just not used to it. My regular co-host Glenn is, as you can see, is not with us today. Glenn is in the finishing touches of his move. He is back here in Canada. He does have internet, but he doesn't have any furniture yet, so he didn't want to be laying down on the floor trying to do the news.
That's right, exactly. But he says his internet speed is just awesome. He's looking forward to getting back on the show and not having any issues with his reception when it comes to that.
That'll be fantastic. I'm super excited for him. Welcome home, Glenn. We're glad to have you back here. Hope your troubles end soon, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly.
Yes. So we're gonna jump right into it. The first story that we have is kind of an interesting story. It catches all of our hearts here in Canada. Most of us have been following TED for a long time. The Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club meets with Health Canada a week after exemption application was rejected.
That's right. Victoria Cannabis Buyers Clubs met with Health Canada panel review on Wednesday for the Cannabis Act, including the medical cannabis program. Ted Smith, founder of the VCBC, said that the panel was consulting VCBC about storefront access and how it better informs patients. VCBC had sought permission to sell cannabis products with a THC content higher than 10 milligrams, the current maximum, and their exemption request was rejected by Health Canada last week. So they put in a request, they reject it, and then Health Canada comes back to them and says, how can we do this? That's what it almost sounds like.
Consulting about storefront access and how it better informs patients. So are they coming to them to talk to them about them opening, or are they coming to TED to say, hey, can you help us with our government stores?
It says right here, Ted Smith, founder of the VCBC, said the panel was consulting VCBC about storefront access and how it better informs patients.
Yeah, but it doesn't say which storefront. It doesn't say it's VCBC storefront. It just says it talked to the VCBC.
Yeah, about storefront access, correct.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if it's about VCBC storefront or government storefront.
Oh, I'm just going to say storefront access in general.
Yeah. It's really ironic that 1 week after we get turned down from the exemption, another branch of Health Canada is reaching out to us for help to see how they could make their program more like ours. Yeah, so they're looking to improve their program. Smith told Capital Daily, the meeting with Health Canada just shows how the right hand and the left hand don't really know what they're doing. Founded in 1996, making it one of Canada's oldest compassion clubs, the VCBC dates back decades before legalization, currently has about 8,000 locals as members, but the legalization of its product hasn't made VCBC itself legal.
Yeah, it's been operating unlicensed and in violation of not only limits to the THC, but also on being both a seller and a producer. It seeks medical proof for conditions, but not doctors' prescriptions, making it not a recognized medical dispensary, but also not a legal recreational one. Raising THC limits and allowing licensed storefronts are changes Smith said he hopes will come out of the consultations with the panel, which will make recommendations for the medical cannabis program to Health Canada.
VCBC has tried to get those allowances for itself by applying for one of the exemptions Health Canada can grant for medical, scientific, or other public interest reasons. Its application argued that many of its customers require a higher THC concentration for medical cannabis use, including to treat cancer and chronic pain. Member turned staffer Nikki Jackson told Capital Daily in 2021 that the club was the only place that many members can get the quality or price they need in order to treat their conditions. The exemption request, first sent in 2021, included testimonials from some of those patients, as well as from experts such as UVIC-based Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research and from the City of Victoria, which in the past has also advocated for VCBC to both Health Canada and the province.
Exactly. Like they got these people behind them. This is not, they're getting support, but they're not getting what they should be getting. Health Canada maintained that the VCBC had not proven that the exemption was necessary for medical purposes. It argued that in part that the individual products need not reach higher concentrations for consumers to consume the total amount they require. So let's eat 90 packages of cookies so that someone can get 900 milligrams. Like what?
Yeah.
VCBC insists that it's unrealistic to expect people to buy and consume numerous 10 milligrams items every day. It blows my mind that a Health Canada bureaucrat could imagine a person who requires 1,000 milligrams THC to eat 100 gummies.
Yeah. and that's crazy. Look at all the sugar that's going in, all the product that you don't need going in. And not to mention, I think the cheapest 10 milligram edible here in Nova Scotia at our liquor stores, because that's where our cannabis stores are, is like $6.95. So $7 for 10 milligrams.
So $7. There's $700 a day.
For a day. A day.
Yeah, $21,000 a month.
Yeah. In addition to addressing the issues VCBC has faced directly, Smith also hopes that the panel will recommend training programs for medical cannabis bud tenders to prepare them on how best to teach patients about medical cannabis usage. He also wants it to support grants being made available to nonprofit societies who retail medical cannabis. It is very difficult for nonprofits to raise capital. And so without having some extra benefits, or incentives from the government to do that, what we would just see Shoppers Drug Mart and other big businesses jumping into instead of really community-based nonprofit societies like ours, said Smith.
Yeah. VCBC's request for an exemption will now be presented before a federal judge, a process that will take time. Ted goes on to say, we are confident that we will be able to convince a judge that patients need over 10 milligrams. In fact, it may be that those laws will have already been changed. The 10 milligram limit is one that even Mike Farnworth, who is BC's Solicitor General, is arguing needs to be changed, and that's for recreational use.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second, that the rec is going to change it. They're looking at taking it from 10 to 25 milligrams. 25. So if a person needs 1,000, that's still a lot of packages. And if we're paying $6.95 for 10, they're going to fix that in the price for 25. So they really haven't fixed anything by raising the THC limit.
No.
So
they have to go higher. If they're just talking about 25, then they got to go higher. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, absolutely. And they've got to work on the price point too, because $7 for 10 milligrams is disgusting. I mean, I pay $5 for 50 in most, gray market dispensaries. So we want to be part of the solution to the opiate crisis. We feel cannabis has not been given its proper place in that, and that it's still being treated like a dangerous substance, when instead it should be substituted for oxycodone and other opiates, said Smith. I agree. And it's not just the government that has this reefer madness. They're still pushing reefer madness. Somebody that I sat with yesterday in a different, with different medicine, he doesn't realize that but he's got reefer madness because, I was talking about detoxing for 5 days for another ceremony, and he laughed and he goes, yeah, right. Like you could do that. Well,
Yeah.
why didn't I? It's,
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah. And this is, and it's the government that's doing it. It's not people. The government is pushing that reefer madness. The club first faced raids and charges 2 decades ago, which it won on constitutional grounds, and a decade ago won a Supreme Court case that expanded the definition of medical cannabis to include edibles.
That's right. Yep. In past several years, its non-compliance has led to a series of raids conducted by this BC Community Safety Unit with an eviction notice, which Capital Daily covered in 2021. This March, BC was raided once again by the CSU and faces $6 million in fines for violation of provincial licensing rules. In response, it filed a lawsuit and an injunction against the provincial and federal governments. Way to go, Ted.
Yeah, go Ted, go.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens 10 years later.
I think.
I mean,
I'd like to come back in 100 years.
Owen and Neil Allard won us so much, and I feel confident that Ted will take it the next step further.
Oh yeah, he's been involved in so much. So
yeah. Heading over to the Toronto Star, cannabis retailer Fire and Flower files for bankruptcy protection.
Yeah. Cannabis retailer Fire and Flower has been granted protection from creditors, the latest sign of trouble in Canada's legal cannabis industry, and a blow to convenience store giant Alienation Couche-Tard, which is Max's Milk, multi-million-dollar move into the cannabis business. According to court filings, Fire and Flower Holdings Corp had just $8.1 million in cash on hand as of March the 31st, against $50.8 million in current liabilities, and is looking to sell its remaining assets.
Wow. The applicants are unable or are expected to soon become unable to meet their obligations generally as they become due. The company said in Ontario Supreme Court filings before it was granted protection under the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act. The CCAA allows courts to give companies protection from their creditors, allowing them to continue operating while they restructure as an alternative to declaring bankruptcy. Only companies that owe at least $5 million are eligible. Fire and Flower is seeking to lay off an unspecified number of employees and get out of leases for several of its 80 stores across the country. Some of Fire and Flower's stores operate under the Friendly Stranger brand, which it took over in 2020.
Yeah, at one downtown Toronto location that remained open Tuesday afternoon, a staff member who declined to give their name said they were concerned about the situation. We're kind of in the dark so far, and I need this job, says the staff member.
Increased competition and operating costs, margin pressure, and regulatory restrictions suffered by the companies and the cannabis industry generally have collectively contributed towards significantly lower revenues and higher costs than what applicants expected their cannabis retail stores would face, the company said in explaining the reasons for its struggles. The company is proposing US-based restructuring firm FTI Consulting be appointed to the auction off the company or parts of it under a so-called sales and investment solicitation process, the SISP.
According to the License Insolvency trustee Brian Gilman, who isn't involved in Fire and Flower's case, and SISP is effectively a last-ditch attempt to find a buyer as an alternative to bankruptcy. He goes on to say that someone could come along and buy all the stores. Someone could come along and buy 6. They're trying to get the highest amount possible. That's the whole point of an SISP.
Hey, come buy my business. We owe $80.5 million and we only have 8. A numbered company controlled by a convenience store giant, Couche-Tard, has given Fire and Flower a debtor in possession financing of up to $9.8 million, so it can continue to operate while CCAA proceedings continue. That's just a fraction of what Couche-Tard has invested in Fire and Flower to date.
Yeah, in 2019, Couche-Tard bought 9.9% of Fire and Flower for approximately $26 million, with an option to take over majority control for $380 million. It's unclear whether Couche-Tard ever exercised any or all of its rights to buy additional shares. In an email, a spokesman for Couche-Tard says the company was aware of the CCAA proceeding.
We are aware that Fire and Flower Group has received an order for creditor protection from the Ontario Supreme Court of Justice. This loan will help the business continue to operate day to day during the proceedings. As always, we remain committed to our stakeholders and will provide further updates as appropriate, said the spokesperson. Fire and Flower is just the latest cannabis company to either file for creditor protection or get out of the retail business.
Yeah, last year, retailer Superette filed for creditor protection, and in September, Canopy Growth Corp announced it was getting out of the retail business entirely after selling off its 28 Tokyo Smoke retail locations. Cannabis industry analyst Chris Damas says Couche-Tard almost certainly regrets getting involved in the industry.
They're 100% regretting their move into cannabis. These guys are laser focused on the convenience store and gas station, and Fire and Flower never made a profit, said Damas, who's the founder of the BCMI Research. Damas said he wasn't shocked by Fire and Flower's struggle, saying the majority of the company's stores were too big and with expensive leases signed in the early days of legal cannabis.
I never really liked the Fire and Flower format. I was very much a big box store look, and cannabis has really gone to a smaller is better kind of format. It just doesn't have the revenues and profits to support a big standalone building, Damas says, who nevertheless believes the legal cannabis industry won't vanish entirely. I think we're getting close to the end of the shakeout in the industry. Cannabis is still a $4 billion a year product. The problem is that there's unlimited competition, he says.
Yeah. Yeah, all these stores got in and they went flashy because they thought that all of us want it flashy. And really we don't. What we want is we want to know that our product is good. We want to know that people know what they're talking about. We want to be able to go in and say, hey, I am looking for this, and have somebody go, oh, I either have that or I don't, and not stand there with a dumb look on their face.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And unfortunately, when legalization first happened, and I went up to Toronto, and I went into Tokyo Smoke and Friendly Stranger, and I can't remember the name of the third one. I went in and I dealt with a bunch of young people that's exactly what they did. Hi, I'm looking for this product. I was looking for Shatterizer product. I want to get some Shatterizer shatter. Oh, are all of our shatters over here? No, the brand Shatterizer. Who? They had no idea about brands, about what was what, and it was really, really upsetting. So imagine being a new user and going in there and trying to talk with somebody like that.
Right. Yeah.
No. We're going to head over to Strachan and talk about my favorite little province. Newfoundland sold more than $70 million worth of cannabis in the last year.
That's right. Newfoundland sold more than $70 million worth of cannabis in the last year, according to the Newfoundland and Labor Liquor Corporation. Fourth quarter and fiscal year 2023 performance numbers were released by the province this week. Cannabis sales through the licensed cannabis retailers, including online sales in the province, totaled $18.7 million in the fourth quarter, an increase of 22% over the same period in the previous year.
Wow. Total retail cannabis sales for fiscal year 2023 ending April 1st increased by 15.8% over the prior year to $70.7 million. The NLC reported $61 million in cannabis sales in 22 and $52 million in 2021. The NLC also incurred a significant increase in operating and administrative expenses through the fiscal year, 44%, due to an increase in commissions paid to some cannabis retailers. The commission is tied to higher sales volumes and an increase in commission rate paid from 15% to 20% to these LCRs.
The end of the 2022-23 fiscal year also marks the end of the provincial agency's 3-year planning period for the 2020-23 business plan. During this period, NLC reported record sales and earnings in each of the 3 years. The amount the NLC paid to the provincial government for the 3-year period totaled $613 million, an increase of $80.9 million over the previous 3-year period, including alcohol. Bruce Keating, the NLC president and CEO, says, "I'm extremely proud of the NLC team for their continued commitment to serving Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. We're proud to have contributed $208 million to fund valuable programs and services in communities across the province."
As importantly, we have continued to take important steps with respect to enhancing the customer experience, a regulatory mandate, corporate governance, and corporate social responsibility, as well as diversity, inclusion, and belonging. As an employer to more than 600 NLC team members, we will continue to work towards earning trust in everything we do and strive to become the kind of organization we believe NLC can be. The NLC also conducted 1,484 inspections on liquor establishments and cannabis retailers in the fourth quarter. This represents a 42% increase over the number of inspections conducted during the same period in fiscal year 2022. The increase in inspections is due to fewer inspections during COVID restrictions.
Yeah. During the fiscal year, NLC conducted 4,468 inspections on liquor establishments and cannabis retailers. In the fiscal year 2023, the NLC also worked with local law enforcement and Canada Post to investigate 18 files, resulting in seizures of 409 kilograms of cannabis products. Since legalization in October 2018, NLC's regulatory compliance and enforcement team has seized $10 million in illegal cannabis products. In the fourth quarter of 2023, staff representatives participated in the Evidence to Policy Symposium, Coming Together to Foster Safe Cannabis Use, hosted by the Cannabis Health Evolution and Research Partnership.
The NLC is a crown corporation of the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador, with responsibility through the Liquor Corporation Act, the Liquor Control Act, and the Cannabis Control Act for the, importation, sale, distribution, and management of beverage alcohol and cannabis. It also regulates and distributes to over 40 licensed cannabis retailers across the province. Consumers of the legal age can also purchase cannabis at shopcannabisnl.com. In late 2022, the province said it was looking to license more cannabis retailers.
More stores. Province is also allowing the sale of cannabis vape pens. I hope they don't clog. In September 2022, a move that the government says will help its legal stores better capture market share from illegal cannabis operators, noting that some products represent about 20% of the total sales in other legal markets. Effective October 1st, 2022, the NLC increased commission rates paid to the Tier 1 and Tier 2 LCRs from 15% to 20%. Province has 4 different retail tiers of cannabis retail licenses, with Tier 1 stores operating as standalone cannabis-only stores, while Tier 2 stores are cannabis-only stores that are located in an existing non-cannabis retail location.
Tier 3 stores operate within non-cannabis retail locations, but have their own separate counter, while Tier 4 stores sell cannabis at the same counter as other non-cannabis products. For example, the island of Newfoundland currently has 11 C shops, cannabis stores located inside larger shopping centers. Well, that's interesting. The provincial retailer hopes the new commission rate will help these stores to mitigate the special challenges of the store format compared with the other tiers and improve the viability of these specialized stores in our local cannabis industry.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Lots selling there.
Interesting. I didn't know that they had stores inside other stores where you're sharing counters and can sell cannabis.
Yeah, no, neither do I. Each province is a little different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sure is. Heading to our last story before the break, we're going to MJ Biz Daily. Canada's unsold cannabis inventory balloons to 1.5 billion grams.
Holy smokes, that's a lot of bud. Business failures and consultation failed to stop Canada's stockpile of unsold cannabis from reaching a new high in the final quarter of 2022. The latest sign that shrinking prices and margins could continue to squeeze companies. Packaged and unpackaged inventory of dried cannabis jumped to an all-time high of 1.47 billion grams, which is equivalent to 3.2 million pounds, as of December 2022, according to the latest data from Health Canada, which tracks overall unsold stockpiles to licensed producers, wholesalers, and retailers.
That's an increase from 1.3 billion in December 2021. Federally licensed cultivars were sitting on 1.39 billion grams of packaged and unpackaged inventory as of December 2022, while stores and wholesalers held 80.7 million grams of packaged inventory. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. The data suggests the country's cannabis industry remains gripped by a supply and demand imbalance, even though many of the biggest producers have mothballed their largest cultivation facilities. Last year, for instance, Aurora Cannabis closed its flagship Aurora Sky facility in Edmonton, Alberta, one of the biggest in Canada.
The oversupply situation is thought to be one of the factors forcing down cannabis prices. The retail price of cannabis has fallen almost 30% since 2018, when Canada legalized adult use sales, according to Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index. And I got to say, I went and bought a pre-rolled blunt for a friend of mine for his birthday the other day, the equivalent to 4 grams. And the last time I looked at it, it was a $35 joint, and I got it for 24. So it's come down quite a bit.
Wow. I wonder
And
if
they're not allowed to
yeah.
do sales here in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, wholesale prices in the country tumbled more than 40% late last year alone, according to the Canadian Cannabis Exchange, a live trading platform for business-to-business wholesale cannabis. Falling prices are putting the squeeze on businesses across the cannabis supply chain in Canada, they say.
Yeah, 14 of the 35 Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, the CCAA, filings in Canada between January 1st and December 22nd of last year involved companies operating in the cannabis space. The filings are equivalent to bankruptcy filings in the United States. 35.
Yeah. Elab Barak, CEO of DJOT, a Toronto-based company selling cannabis dispensers and pod systems for concentrate, says, I don't think there's a lack of competition in Canada. I think there's over competition. They're growing cannabis because that's what they know how to do. But when they go to sell it, they can't, he says.
Yeah, and that's because we've had a lot of people that just saw it as a business and jumped in. They're not cannabis consumers, they're just business people. And I think those are the places that are falling these days. You're seeing 2 results. Some companies are going under, but the cannabis doesn't disappear. They hold it or sell it via liquidations of unsold inventory as companies go bankrupt, he said.
Citing the latest Health Canada figures, Barak noted that there are now nearly 1,000 licensed producers in Canada that are competing in various parts of the federally regulated supply chain. The number has not stopped growing since legalization back in October 2018, despite companies exiting the industry via conciliation and others via the CCAA.
As of last summer, there were 886 licensed cultivators, processors, and sellers under Canada's Cannabis Act. That figure was approximately 730 in 2021. In 2020 and 2019, the numbers were 440 and 206, respectively. In 2016, when I first started working in the industry as a bud tender, there were 27.
Things have changed. I can remember when there was just one. One producer. Yeah, Canadian cultivars produced a record amount of cannabis during last fall's Croptober, when most of the outdoor cannabis harvest comes in. Dried cannabis produced last September, October, and November totaled 640 grams, a year-over-year increase of 14%.
In the same months of 2021, approximately 560 million grams of dried cannabis was produced. In all of 2022, roughly 2 billion grams of cannabis was produced, according to Health Canada data. And again, I say all of this stuff that they're going to end up burning because they say, it's bad product or wasteful or too much. Imagine the cancer we can cure, the ailments we can help. Like,
if the product is if it's good product, there's no reason to put it to waste. Yeah, correct. Yeah. They say that for perspective, in the same year, approximately 360 million grams of dried flower and pre-rolls were sold at retail in Alberta, British Columbia, Ontario, and Saskatchewan, according to Cooper Ashley, an analytics manager at Seattle-based cannabis data firm Headset.
Wow. Canada's licensed growing area is continuing to decline, according to the Health Canada data. The total area within federal licensed sites where indoor greenhouse cannabis cultivation activities occurred measured, almost 1.6 million square meters in December of 2022.
Yeah, that's almost 30% lower than the all-time high of 2,217,216 square meters reached in May of 2020. The cannabis greenhouse area, as a percentage of all greenhouse area, including those used for vegetable cultivation, is also in a decline.
Yeah. Interesting. At its peak in 2020, cannabis cultivation accounted for little more than 11% of Canada's total greenhouse space. As of today, cannabis accounts for 7.6% of Canada's total greenhouse and indoor cultivation area, a reduction of more than 30%. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, licensed outdoor cultivation area is declining at a much slower rate. The area where outdoor cultivation occurs in December to 2022 measured basically 1,470 acres, which is 16% lower than the all-time high reached back in 2021.
Yep, when 713 hectares were used. Yeah. Well, that's really kind of interesting. I mean, 1.5 billion grams.
Crap. That's a lot of grams.
That's crap load of grams. But that brings us to a good time to go for a break. So Al and I get to go medicate. So we will be right back after a session. You are watching us, Psychedelics and Cannabis News Education here on paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. We'll see you in just over 3.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com.
Babe, it's spring. Just saw a robin.
Awesome. Let's get our butts to Limestone City Hydroponics. They carry Happy Frog and Ocean Forest soils and lots of promos.
Limestone City Hydroponics carry everything you need to get veggies veggin', from organic fertilizer to cloth grow pots to, well, everything. Visit them today. Don't delay. In-store, free delivery, or curbside. We're here to help. 613-548-0420.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
I'm getting my cough out. We are back from our medication session, and we are live here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're all over the place on cbgtv.com and paceradio.net. And I got my cough out just before we got back at the stage.
I got some breaking news for you. I was sharing the news during the break there, sharing it to the groups, and all of a sudden I received a notice. Sorry, but your account has been shut down for an hour. Basically, I can't share anything for an hour.
Well, at least you only got an hour, man. They took my account.
Oh, I've only got a minute left. So I just bang, 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 and then I got this notice come up on my screen and said that I violated community standards, and I've got restrictions now for an hour. So
that hardly ever happens to you.
Well, it looks like according to the screen here in StreamYard, we're still running on Facebook, so that's good.
Well, that's good. Yay. Adding to our first story after the break, we are heading over to the Rolling Stone. What a great publication. Psychedelic therapy could revolutionize mental health, but who gets to try it?
Yeah, psychedelic assisted therapy shows such promise for intractable mental health conditions like depression, PTSD, and addiction that they've won bipartisan political support. Prominent researchers and mental health professionals are starting to wake up to what shamans have been saying for years. Victoria DeLigio writes at Horizon, psychoactive substances have immense therapeutic potential, she says.
They sure do. Investors are betting hundreds of millions of dollars that these new therapies will be a gold mine. But legally and logistically, we're in uncharted waters. Really, we're not. We're just not looking at the right charts. How do you define psychedelic therapy? Is it safe? Does it require regulation? Will insurance cover it? Who gets to call themselves a psychedelic therapist? We know psychedelic therapy could potentially benefit millions, but how people will access it, especially as most psychedelics are still Schedule 1, we don't know. It's how are people going to access it?
Yeah. The mental health problems that psychedelics seem to address, PTSD, depression, addiction, eating disorders, are serious and life-threatening. Because we have so few effective treatments for these illnesses, psychedelic therapy advocates want these substances made available to the public as soon as possible. They argue that restricted psychedelic therapy access is far riskier than opening the gates, especially when you consider that these substances have been in use by humans for thousands of years. The grassroots psychedelic community is understandably invested in decriminalization and in countering decades of anti-psychedelic propaganda around the risk of these substances. Many see guardrails, restrictions, and insurance approvals as codes for profit-based restriction or bureaucratic barriers to enter. They will have suffering people out in the cold. They will leave suffering people out in the cold.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, when companies are talking about wanting to get into this to make money, I think it's disgusting. I mean, it's this is medicine. It's not here to make money. It's here to help people. Some pro-psychedelic medical professionals say that implementing some types of screening around both psychedelic treatments and psychedelic therapists will provide better outcomes for patients. Clinical psychologist Dr. Rosalind Watts champions psychedelics' therapeutic potential, and yet she argues that psychedelics alone are not a magic bullet for mental health. In multiple clinical trials, she's seen that psilocybin can open a door to recovery, but that the therapeutic process, not the medicine itself, is needed to help people heal. I think it's a combination of both. As somebody who has working to heal her CPTSD and using both talk therapy and psychedelic therapy, which I include cannabis into psychedelic therapy. I'm sorry, but I mean, it works, and it's the psychedelics that are making it possible.
Yep.
Without the psychedelics, the psychiatrist would be of absolutely no use to me.
Yeah. Dr. Watts and other mental health specialists say that administering psychedelics without trained support, monitoring, and integration will worsen outcomes for patients in need. For those with particular mental health issues, taking psychedelics without supervision could be dangerous. Anyone who's ever had a bad trip knows it's risky to consume psychedelics alone. For most of us, the risks are minimal. but these experiences can unearth trauma. Even Rick Doblin, founder of the Muscular Dystrophy Association of Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, told the Washington Post that minimizing risk around psychedelic consumption was key. I don't want people to think that this is like going on a carnival ride. There's always a risk.
Absolutely. I mean, this is medicine. This isn't something like, like we all know taking a gram of mushrooms can be fun and we can laugh. But I mean, if you start taking therapeutic doses, you really need a trip setter and you need somebody who's experienced. Those risks are exacerbated for people with histories of schizophrenia, mania, bipolar 1 disorder, or psychosis, which is why psychedelic studies typically screen subjects for those neurological issues. They said that that said, the grassroots psychedelic community is quick to point out that we already have models for trained guidances and community support that don't require advanced degrees or licenses. They argue that educating the public about the risks of psychedelics for people with specific mental illnesses while making mental health screening and care more accessible will help more than restricting access.
The psychedelic investor space is filled with claims that psychedelics are simply too powerful to consume outside of a clinical setting. So much so that Russell Hosfield at SPOMA dubbed this cohort the psychedelic medicalization industry. Billionaire ATA Life Science founder Christian Angermayer insists that although humankind has consumed psychedelics for all of recorded history, they were always regulated. You could go to a shaman or priest. You should only take these substances with them in a controlled environment and in the right setting.
Which is true. I mean, if you take a look back to years ago, that's what they did. If somebody was ill, they went to the medicine man or woman, and that person would administer the psychedelic medication or other medication as they see fit. So, that's not lying. I mean, the shamans did it, and the shamans still do it. If you take a look at Africa with the Bwiti, you don't take iboga unless the shaman gives it to you.
Right.
And that's just the way it is, right? ATAI Life Sciences CEO Florin Brand claimed in an interview that insurance will play an essential role in actually making those therapies accessible to patients because most people won't be able to afford them at $5,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 per session out of pocket. At the Green Market Summit on the economics of psychedelic investing in 2020, Field Trip co-founder and CEO Ronan Levy admitted that marginalized people might be excluded from accessing this care because it's going to be expensive. There's a lot to unpack here. First, prohibiting psychedelic therapy outside of medical contexts will fail, just like prohibition always fails. One need only look at the sorry state of cannabis legalization to see how strictly a medical model will pan out. And honest to God, even if we talk about alcohol, look at the prohibition back with alcohol, and that died because people went crazy with it. And if we take a look at, street drugs, it's the same. It's the same thought. The prohibition is making it more interesting for some people.
Well, so, it's because it's against the law. Yeah. And as far as cutting people out because of the cost, when I see some of these costs listed, I can see why people are going to be left behind because some of them were $25,000 or $2,500, and
but do you know why it's $5,000?
No.
Because it's illegal.
That's what they said about cannabis. Why cannabis is so expensive? It's because it's illegal.
Because it's illegal, and people need to make extra money to make sure they can pay for the lawyers if something goes awry. But if it wasn't illegal, if it was easier to get into the country, if it was therefore cheaper to get into the country, and therefore less of a risk, et cetera, your $5,000 would probably go down to $2,000.
Yeah.
Your $2,000 would go down to like $400. So, legalization or illegalization is playing a large role in how much it costs.
Yeah, that's a lot of dough. Never mind especially if it's you're going to like Jamaica or something to do it, you got all the other costs involved as well. So, yep. So we shut that story down and move on to the next one.
Absolutely, because I could talk about this one forever.
I know.
And it's better
I'm
to
looking
shut
at
me
the
up
time.
now before we get me into it. I agree 100%. We're going to head over to the next story, which is coming to us from the Washington Post. Bothered by cannabis smell, this lady sued her neighbor to get him to stop smoking, and she won.
Yeah, holy smokes. What? Yeah, DC judges ruled that a man who smokes medical cannabis in his apartment must stop after a neighbor complained that the odor from his cannabis crept into her home and caused a nuisance. Judge Ebony Scott ruled late Monday that while Joseph Ipolola Shepherd could not prove she is entitled to damages, she successfully made the case that the smell is a private nuisance, and Scott ordered Thomas Cackett to stop smoking. Scott says that Cackett is licensed to buy cannabis, but he does not possess a license to disrupt the full use and enjoyments of one's land.
Indeed, the public interest is best served by eliminating the smoking nuisance and the toxins that it deposits into the air, toxins that involuntary smokers have no choice but to inhale, Scott wrote in her decision. Cackett is banned from smoking at his address or within 25 feet of her address.
Yeah. The decision is believed to be the first of its kind. It could open the door to additional legal action. Yes. Now, Shepherd told the Washington Post on Tuesday that she believed the decision was a win for people like her, who have complained about the smell of cannabis since it had been allowed in most states in some form.
Oh, this is not a good precedent. I hope that the person that got sued fights it, appeal it. The 76-year-old argued during the trial in January that she has faced health problems, including difficulty sleeping, ever since she noticed the smell of cannabis. Well, honey, we can help you, which is legal in this district in her Cleveland Park home. She said the owner of the adjoining home has allowed Cackett, who rents the ground level accessory apartment, to smoke without consequences. The owner and Cackett responded that they have no legal responsibility for Shepherd's ailments, which, is true. And honestly, they can help her. They're not legally responsible to, but if you're having problems sleeping, we can help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The decision comes as complaints over the smell of cannabis have arisen amid a boom in the cannabis industry. In a legal gray area where cannabis is still illegal federally, but sanctioned by states, users, sellers, growers, and others have operated with caution about pioneering a new frontier. Now the concern about the legal repercussions of the smell is another issue. Cackett testified in court that the medical cannabis releases pain and helps him sleep after physically intensive shifts. As a restaurant manager, he said that he smoked about 8 to 12 puffs at night after he gets off of work, typically outside if the weather was tolerable, and he denied smoking all day and all night, as the plaintiff alleges. I am not Snoop Dogg, he says during the trial.
The owner of the house did not respond to requests for comments after the judge's decision. Cackett said in an email that he contests that he smokes inside his apartment. It's a big win from the public health perspective because it's setting a precedent for all the people that are in similar situations. And said Shepherd, who represented herself in the case. The only thing that I can see coming out of this that would be really, really good is if you're going to complain about cannabis smoke, well, then we should ban people from smoking tobacco, cigarettes, as we modernly know them.
What about
that's a heck of a lot
worse.
What
about that food smell? What about that food smell you don't like?
Yeah.
Public health experts previously told the Post that secondhand cannabis smoke has some of the same cancer-causing toxins as secondhand tobacco smoke, but no one gets cancer from cannabis. However, the federal government's classification of cannabis as a Schedule 1 drug has made it difficult to study long-term effects of it, as well as the secondhand smoke. And just so you know, Shepherd has also received messages from others who are considering legal action. So this isn't going away.
No. This is a really interesting story. But I'm going to move us on to the next one. But I'm
Yeah.
kind of angry about it, but at the same time, I can kind of see like getting cigarettes out of the air too. So as
Yeah,
much as I'm upset
exactly.
about it, I can see potential good in it too. But heading on to the next story, because we are getting down in time, we're going to the Jakarta Post, and we are going to read about a man who is getting the death penalty for carrying 1.3 tons of cannabis in Medan.
Yeah, another one being hung. Just not right. The Medan court in North Sumatra on Tuesday sentenced Mawardi, a 24-year-old man from Gaya Lois Ashish, to death after being found guilty of carrying 1.3 tons of cannabis, fulfilling the demand of the prosecutors in the trial, which was held online. Presiding Judge Gersing said his verdict that the defendant violated several articles of law number 35, 201, 209 on narcotics.
The judge said the severe sentence was because the defendant had violated the government's attempts to fight against drugs. The judge said he found no mitigating factors for the verdict. The defendant, who was present via teleconference, decided to appeal the verdict. I hope you
All
win.
right, good stuff.
He was arrested in Medan on December 12th, 2022, and he was carrying the 1.3 tons of cannabis from Gayo Luez to Medan.
Yeah, now listen to this. He said he did the job because he would earn him $134. $134 for doing this.
To pay for his mother's medical.
Pay his mother's medical treatment. For $134, this guy's life is on the line now.
And not just his, but his mom's. She can't get the medical treatment now.
Yeah, exactly.
Last month
is he going to be the only one that's going to be executed? What about the, like it's stupid. It's not right.
No. Last month, the Medan military court in North Sumatra sentenced 2 army soldiers to life imprisonment for trafficking 40,000 ecstasy pills and 75 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine in December.
And they're going to live. They're going to live. And they gave out they have 40,000 ecstasy pills and crystal meth. And they're going to live. But this other guy's going to die.
For sharing some medicine.
Yeah. Let's see. Yelpin Tarzan and another name I can't pronounce were also dishonorably discharged from the military. The prosecutors had previously demanded the death penalty. Presiding Judge Colonel Shegrin, in his verdict, cited the defendant's guilty pleas as a mitigating factor.
The 2 were arrested by police while carrying the contraband from Tanjwa Bali to Medan on December 5th, 2022. They were delivering the drugs to dealers Yogi Saparjua, I'm not even saying these right, but I'm trying, and Sahil bin Samsudin, who were later arrested at a hotel in Medan.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid is going to get killed over some cannabis.
Over some cannabis, and all he was going to earn out of it was
$134.
It's not right.
No.
Yeah.
No. Well,
they wonder why we still need to do protests and stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna skip the Raw story. I suggest you guys all go read it, and we're gonna take the last couple of minutes we have to talk about this story over at CBS Texas. The Denton City Council ignores cannabis prohibition proposition passed over 6 months ago.
Yeah, over 6 months ago, Denton voters passed a proposition that would put an end to arrests and citations for certain cannabis possession cases. Tonight, the Denton City Council chose to ignore the will of the voters. On Tuesday night, the City Council finally faced a vote that would address cannabis possession in relation to the investigation of felony-level narcotics cases designated as high priority or involving violence.
More than 30 people spoke before the vote, including several Denton police officers who say cannabis possession cases lead to searches, which helps them combat illegal guns and gang activity. But supporters of cannabis use say that it's harmless and that there are legitimate and therapeutic applications for both clinical conditions and stresses of modern life.
So let's keep it illegal. Let's not pass this because the police say it helps them combat illegal guns and gang activity. Never mind. Let's let's pass this to prevent people from being put in jail and so on and so forth. They just want to keep it in place so they can combat other crime.
Yeah.
But supported, yeah, you read that part. Ultimately, the council voted 4-3 against adopting the ordinance that would have decriminalized cannabis in Denton. The mayor insisted that police officers still have the discretion not to cite or arrest for cannabis possession, but advocates want more assurance that they won't be prosecuted. Like this is another one of those things. Like people have voted, people have said this is what they want, and somebody sits on a committee and says, "No, I don't like that," and they can go ahead and change the will of the people.
Yeah, yeah. A cop stands up and says, it's helping us. We're just following the smell, and we're getting all the stuff over here. We don't have to do real work.
Yeah. Fuck. People being hung and people ignoring the will of the people. Like, what the fuck? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's infuriating. I mean,
it is.
Like, I mean, this kid was carrying medicine we know it's medicine. I mean, it's not a drug, it's medicine, to make $134 or $135 so his mom can get a medical procedure. And now they're both going to die.
Yep. Yeah. It's
over a plant.
Laws. There's so many laws that need to be changed around the world. There's no reason why we need to stop protesting just because we've got it legal here in Canada.
No, we have more reason to protest. Like, I mean, they screwed up Canada. We're protesting that, but we're not just fighting for us. We're fighting for everybody. We're fighting for humankind to have the rights to take the medicine that they want to take. That's actually going to help them.
That's right. Yeah. It's just crazy that this is still going on, and all this proof and evidence is out there.
2023 with all, even governments are putting this truth and evidence out here. I mean, over the past 2 weeks, I have read 2 stories about how they have researcher finally in the States, and one of them was at UCLA. I can't remember where the other one was at, where they're researching the effects of cannabis smoke and secondhand smoke on lungs, and they're finding that it's not harmful.
Yeah, and there was 3 stories that Kelly and I did recently that talked all about the fact of the quality of health, and the fact that people who consume more than others, the high consumers, weren't affected in a negative way. It was and
yet they're going to kill a young fella over it.
Correct.
Something that'll help you. I mean, we're so backwards. It's super upsetting. And I've been thinking about this all day, so I should probably be quiet now and say thank you so much for joining us here at Pace News. We are now at the end of our broadcast, and we have been coming to you from the Legacy for. Cindy's going to relearn how to talk again. Let's try again. That's our Pace News podcast from the Legacy420.com news desk for today, June 8th, 2023. And as we close the show, we'd like to thank you for joining us, you, the viewers. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Legacy420.com, Campbellford Lifestyle, and what is the name of the hydroponics store?
Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. That's the website.
There you go. And a big thank you to you. Catch our next broadcast with Al and Kelly on Monday. And don't forget Al's tagline. Don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. And for fuck's sakes, don't kill people.
I'm going to have to update that. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Babe, it's spring. Just saw Robin.
Awesome. Let's get our butts to Limestone City Hydroponics. They carry Happy Frog and Ocean Forest soils and lots of pro mix.
Limestone City Hydroponics carry everything you need to get veggies veggin', from organic fertilizer to cloth grow pots to, well, everything. Visit them today. Don't delay. In-store, free delivery, or curbside. We're here to help. 613-548-0420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.